Emily Scott Robinson.
I love you guys.
You cry in your own songs.
I do sometimes.
It's so beautiful.
Nick, I just have to tell you that the first place I ever heard eTown was where I was living in the mountains of North Carolina. And you all were syndicated on my local radio station.
WNCW in Spindale.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. I didn't really know, I had never really been to Colorado, and I didn't really know what eTown was, and I was driving through the mountains, and this amazing radio show came on, and I thought, wow, what is it like? What would it be like to be on that one day? That's crazy. I wasn't even a professional musician at the time.
Well, you have to be careful what you wish for.
It's true, apparently. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. And just thinking about that last song, I know for a lot of people, COVID was a moment of, in some cases, reinvention or recalibration or thinking differently about our priorities. I know for a lot of people, it was a moment to say, boy, I don't want to do stuff that isn't meaningful for me anymore. And it sounds like that song was about a real moment like that, a reinvention, burning all that other stuff down and coming out the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one thing that great slowdown or that giant pause did for all of us is it, somewhat horrifyingly forced us all to be with our own thoughts and be with ourselves nonstop. There wasn't as much distraction, and all the dust settled. And I think,
especially for touring musicians.
yes, oh my God.
For people who are used to traveling and being gone half the time, it's pretty easy to maintain some semblance of normalcy in a life that really isn't really happening all that well. But when you're there all the time, it's like, oh wait,
Yeah, I think there comes a time. I think there come various initiations in one's life where you have outgrown the life that you built for yourself, and it's really kind of terrifying to step out and take a risk and go, oh, I think I may have a different path ahead of me than I planned, and yeah, so that's what that song is about.
Yeah, that's what this is, by the way. That's what eTown is.
Really?
Yeah. It was that moment of being a touring musician for a long time, and then.
Yes.
Like, I think there's a different thing, so.
Isn't it beautiful when a different dream comes into view?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about, you did eventually, whether it was eTown that helped you kind of visualize Colorado, but you did move to Telluride, which is an unlikely place to land for a lot of people. And you lived there for 10 years or something like that, 10 or 12 years?
I did. I moved there in 2011, and I actually... I got a job from the classifieds paper. I was living in North Carolina, driving around the mountains, and I had experience in the field of social work, and I was fluent in Spanish. And so I was looking to move out to a town in Colorado. I pulled up the Telluride Daily Planet. In the classified ads, there was a job listed for a full-time bilingual social work job. And so I took that job, I applied for it, and they were like, how did you hear about this? And my boss at the time who hired me said, I just need you to know before I offer you this job that there is not a stoplight for like 50 miles. And the closest Target is an hour and a half away. This is a tiny town in the middle of the mountains. And I was like, that sounds perfect.
Yeah. Wow.
And I moved there in the dead of winter without a ski pass.
Yeah. That's wild.
So I really cut my teeth.
Yeah.
Then summer came and I was like, oh my God. And I fell in love.
Helen moved there also in January, but back in 1973.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit scrappier of a town back then.
Yep, I suspect so. But I want to talk to you a little more about this trajectory you've been on, because as I understand it, you came to songwriting and singing kind of later, like in college or around then. And am I right that Nancy Griffith and Dar Williams, people like that were inspiring to you?
Yeah, huge inspirations to me. I grew up listening to Dar Williams and Ani DeFranco, and then the generation before them. So in the country world, Nancy Griffith, Mary Chapin Carpenter, Emmylou, James Taylor, John Prine, all those great
I've
songwriters.
heard of them. Yeah.
You know, I think what I was most drawn to were the storytellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so isn't it interesting that now John Prine's label, Oh Boy Records, was the one that actually reached out to you and said, hey, we want to talk to you? Because, I mean, that must be another huge badge of honor, because John Prine's the top of the pile in terms of storytelling songwriters, and
Yeah.
he was the best.
He was the best,
Yeah.
and it's a huge honor for me. It's the best. John founded that label in 1981.
Yeah, Al Bonetta. Yeah.
You had to just mail a check or a money order to the office in Nashville, and they'd mail you back a vinyl or a cassette tape or a CD, and then eventually vinyl again. And he founded it with this ethos of being a bit of a rebel to the music industry.
Totally.
He's the original grassroots artist, right? So supported by his fans, and he did the thing, and they're still doing the thing, and his amazing family runs the label, and I feel so lucky.
Yeah. Well, then that leads me to my next question, which is, you've recently made a record inspired by the three witches of Macbeth. And I'm just trying to figure out the connection between John Prine's songwriting and Shakespeare's Three Witches. And maybe you could help me make that leap.
I will. The first thing to know, actually, that is very cool is John Prine was all about weird ideas and kind of always said yes to anything weird. And the label still does that. So I brought them this idea, and they followed that rule of improv comedy, which is yes and. And so they said, yes, oh my God, absolutely, this is such a cool idea. And so, okay, this project was actually born in Telluride. They do Shakespeare in the Park every summer.
Right.
And my partner, Colin, was directing the show, and he commissioned me to write some original music for the witches of Macbeth. Macbeth, quite famously, has a curse on it. And what we wanted to do was bring in the magic of women and to rewrite and heal the history of the ways in which women healers and women wisdom keepers were punished, sidelined, criminalized, and murdered all through history as witches. And so we wanted to recast those witches. And so I wrote these original songs, and we had three witches, and then we kept adding witches. We had a fiddle witch and a guitar witch. And it was just a whole gaggle of witches. It was so much fun. I was Hecate, the mother witch. And
That's a weird idea. I can see how the label would say, yeah, that's a weird idea.
yeah, they loved it.
Yeah.
And so I wrote the songs, and it's like a little mini song cycle. It sort of tells the story of Macbeth through the witches, and all the songs are in 3-part harmony, which is really fun.
And tell me about the other two women who were primarily involved in this project. Are
So-
they the other two primary witches, I guess?
Yes, my other witches.
Yeah, your
I'm
other
actually, by the time this airs, I will have just finished a tour with them. So they are Lizzie Ross of the duo Violet Bell. And she and her partner Omar are incredible musicians. So Lizzie is one of the witches. And the other witch is Alisa Amador, who just won, last year, she won the NPR Tiny Desk contest. Which, yes, it's a really big deal. That is harder to win than a Grammy.
Yeah, totally.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that was just so exciting for all of us. And they're both incredible women. And I think one of the most important things about this project is finding other women who would step into the project, and it could be this amazing co-creative, inspirational experience. And it really was.
Because you made it in Nashville.
We did.
And Nashville is not exactly known for having a whole bunch of women in the studio.
That's correct.
In the control room behind the board, or helping produce or whatever.
That's exactly right. There's this great organization called Women in the Mix that highlights and that tries to help people become aware of how male-dominated the production and sound engineering industry is, really, in music.
And jam bands, too.
And jam bands. Very dude-heavy.
I'm kidding.
Super dude-heavy.
Yeah.
So we had an amazing... I wanted a woman to produce this project. And so I hired an amazing artist named Brandy Zidane, and she brought just the right amount of rock to the project.
Well, listen, we're going to play one of these songs, aren't we?
Yes.
It's spooky.
It's spooky.
It has a little overtone of Stevie Nicks kind of floating through it a tiny little bit.
I appreciate that compliment.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Well, listen, I'm thrilled that you're here. I'm excited about all your projects and that you've come out of the COVID shutdown with some fresh ideas and fresh energy and new music. And, it's really a joy to hear you sing and play. So thanks.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Thanks so much, Nick.
Let's get back to music. Welcome back, Emily Scott Robinson.